Oh, hi. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I am the immortal Kevin Donovan, and I'm here to regale you with another story of mine. If you would please go ahead and like this video. I hope you find it entertaining. And subscribe to the channel. Go check out my other videos that I've been putting up there. My first video, I said that I might talk about my DWI arrests, and well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about DWI arrest number 2, the deuce. So here we go. Let's get into it. This is now 2000, it was January 2018. It just turned 2018. I was thinking, oh man, new year, new me, all that bullshit. I was all stoked. I was in the process of refurbishing and working on the house that I'm in now, this beautiful establishment that I have, my domicile. And I was working one night with my father. We were here and doing construction stuff. We were actually fitting in the backsplash in my kitchen, and there was a nasty wall up, and we tore that out, and I'm putting other shit in there and putting the backsplash, and it was quite a process actually to get up, more than I thought it would be. I thought it was just going to be a peel and stick, but it was not. If you own a house, you know what I'm talking about. It's always a project. Anyway, Dad and I are here working on the house. It gets to be like 10 o'clock at night or so, and my dad's like, we kind of got done with what we were doing, and my dad's like, wow, it's a good day. And I was like, wow, I was really proud of myself. We had knocked out a lot of work and got a lot done and moved pretty far on the project, and I was pretty happy. And he's like, okay, I'm going to go home. And I was living with my parents at the time because this house wasn't ready, so I was staying at my mom and dad's. And I said, yeah, let me just go ahead and I'll clean up, and I'll be right home too. We drove separately. So Dad takes off, and I, sweep up, clean up, put my tools away, and hop in my car, and I start driving home. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm proud of me. I did good today. You know what? I'm going to go to the bar. I'm going to stop, have one. Now, mind you, it is a Tuesday night. During the week, nothing's going on. But Tuesday nights was the Southern Tier Dart League would play, and the local bar in town, the Barleycorn, sponsored not one but 2 teams. So I figured one of the two, they're usually, one was away and one was home. I figured one of the teams was going to be home. So I'll swing in and talk to the Dart boys and see if they want to play a game or two or just hang out, whatever. And I walk in to, so I detour from going home. I go to the bar. As soon as I walk in, there was the bartender presented me with a Smirnoff Ice. I got iced. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Apparently, somebody else had thought that I had iced them. So they put a standing order on the bar that as soon as I walked in, I was gonna get ice. So the person that did it paid for it. They weren't even in the building. They weren't even there. So I walk in and I'm like, whatever. So I take it and I chug the stupid thing. That was the start of my drinking evening. Those are kind of gross, by the way. They're not a bad product. I'm not putting down Smirnoff. That's not my thing. So I chug that because you're supposed to. And I proceeded to go drinking. Lots of drinks, lots of shots. The boys got finished playing darts. They all kind of took off, and me and a handful of the guys were still there. We started playing cards. We always play pitch at the Barleycorn, and I love playing pitch, 4-man card game. And the kind of standing rule is if the losing team buys the winning team a drink, if you're not playing for cash games or whatever. But man, I kept losing. I was just getting bad cards that night. Well, maybe I wasn't playing well. I don't know what it was. And everybody had a taste for Jameson that night. And Jameson's not my thing. I mean, I don't mind it at all, but it wasn't my particular shot. So I started drinking shots of Jameson with all the guys. So it gets to be last call. Bartender is like, hey, okay, last call. And I'm like, I'll take 3 and 3, which is my last call order, which is 3 cans of Keystone Light unopened and 3 shots of Yasnoka, icy cold Yasnoka. That was the shot that I preferred. And my thought process, now mind you, I'd been drinking from 10 p.m. till last call, 1:30 in the morning. So I have a few hours under my belt of boozing and constantly. And we were playing cards pretty much the whole time. So I was drinking shots and the whole gamut. Like I was drinking pretty good that night. How many? I don't know. A lot. So I ordered my 3 and 3, and bartender was kind of itching to get out of there, and I was like, all right. So I literally grabbed my Yasnoka, 1, 2, 3, and my thought was, dumbass me, I better get home before these shots kick in. So I got to go right now. So I put the cans in my pocket, and I had paid my tab, tipped all that, said goodbye, jumped in my car, and took off. And I'm thinking, man, I gotta get home. I'm already like, hey, so don't drink and drive. It's dumb, and I paid for this a lot. Trust me, I'll get into that in a minute. So I jump in my car and I take off. Now, I always drive very responsibly, and you drive what your habits are. So I always go the speed limit. I always use my blinkers. I don't really drive recklessly. I don't. And I drove through town, all the way out of town, and I'm gonna turn onto my parents' road. Now they're like I said, they're 5 miles from the bar, through town and out of town, and then a little bit out. So they're not close. It's maybe a little less than 10-minute drive, I guess. So apparently there was a Tahoe County sheriff that watched me get into my car and followed me through town. I tried to get an entrapment, like, oh, he followed me, blah, blah. They didn't buy that. That didn't matter. So don't worry about that in your legal defenses if you ever get that done to you. Thanks, guys. Whatever. Anyway, put my signal on. I turn on the road, my parents' road, and they're about 1 mile to get to my parents' driveway. I get about 3/4 of the way there, and woo! I saw this car zip up behind me and get on my ass, and I'm like, oh no. Woo! And his lights are shining. You know how they turn their bright lights on and their spotlights on you? And I'm blinded because it's reflecting off of my mirrors right into my eye. And there happened to be a little restaurant that's on my parents' road that I pulled into, and I didn't turn on my turn signal to do that. I just started pulling. I slowed down, pulled over, and then I pulled into that little parking lot and stopped in there to get off of the road. And stopped, put it in park, put the window all the way down. Cop gets out. He goes, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I said, "No, why?" He goes, "Your taillights were they blinked when you hit the when you were stopping to make the turn on to go over the bridge. Your taillights flashed. Not like like." He explained it very clearly then. I'm fumbling with my words now, but you know how you hit the brake and your lights come on clean and they just stay on? Mine kind of flickered. So that caught his eye, apparently, after he'd followed me all the way through town. That was his reason to pull me over. And Dylan was the cop's first name. I'm not going to say his last name. So Dylan pulls me over. He said, "Your taillights flickered back there. I just wanted to make sure everything's all right and your car's working good." And I was like, "Yeah, I know everything's fine." And I was behaving as a drunk person because I was, no, everything's good. I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, "I think I smell alcohol in your breath." And I was like, it's too late. I was already, and he's like, "Why don't you step out of the car for me?" I said, "No." He goes, "I want you to step out of the car." I said, "I don't want to step out of the car." He goes, "That's not an option." As soon as he said that, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to get out of the car now. So, dumb, not thinking me, it clicked in my head. And by the way, one of the road sodas I had 3 in my pocket. I threw one just to ride shotgun. I never even thought to grab it and throw it in the back seat or under the seat or anything. So it was just sitting right out in the open on my passenger seat. He eyeballed that right away. He tells me this later. He eyeballed that right away. That's one of the reasons he wanted to pull me out of the car. I get out. I'm getting out. I'm like, oh shit, and I'm like, I don't want him to catch these on me. So I take the cans of beer, and I just take them out of my pocket. I just kind of toss them into the passenger seat, and I get out, and he looks at me funny. Yeah, no, he didn't think that was funny either. I thought it was funny. I get out, and he goes, "What's that?" He goes, "I saw that one on your seat. You had more?" I said, "Officer, those are for when I get home because I don't want to drive drunk." I said that to him. I swear to God. And he goes, "Well, how many have you been drinking tonight?" And I don't remember what number I told him. Um, I might have said one or two, and I've got those for later. He's like, "Well, you seem intoxicated to me. I want you to do some field sobriety tests for me." And I was like, "God damn it. All right." So um, we did, I forget which ones we did. Now that's how good my memory is. That's how much I'd been drinking. I really don't remember. I did one test with him. I think it might have been um, walk heel toe. Like you don't put a space, you put your foot down, and then you put your next foot, your heel, almost on your toe, and you touch them, and then you take like 5 or 10 steps like that, and you just don't lose your balance. And I think I did that, and he said, "Well, I want you to touch your nose." And I said, "You know what, officer? I don't want to do any more of your tests." He goes, "You're not doing any more tests?" I said, "Negative, Ghost Rider. Pattern is full." That's what I said to the guy, Dylan. And he goes, "Well, you're going to have to take a breathalyzer then if you're not going to do the field sobriety test." And I said, "I'm not taking your breathalyzer either. I'm done taking your tests." Because I had heard from a buddy of mine, and now, mind you, this is my second one. So I've played this game with cops before. And I was just not in the mood that night. I didn't feel like being compliant. I didn't feel like being nice. I wanted to be aggressive. I wanted to be mean. I was not aggressive. I was not mean. But I was having trouble holding it together because I was just not in the mood to play. And I was like, I'm not doing that either. I'm not doing it. He goes, "You're refusing the breathalyzer." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm gonna ask you one more time. Will you take this breathalyzer?" And I looked at him right in the eye and said, "Negative, Ghost Rider. Pattern is full." Again, quote from Top Gun. If you don't know Top Gun, watch the movie. It's classic. Um, so he goes, "Well, I'm gonna you're under arrest for DWI because I could smell alcohol on you. You had containers in the car." I said, "They weren't open." He goes, "I don't think that's all you had. I think you're intoxicated. I don't think you for refusing the test. That gives me," he said, "I think that gives me probable cause or something." I'm not real sure what he said. It's kind of a blur. And he goes, I'm gonna arrest you for DWI for refusing the breathalyzer." And I knew that was an automatic arrest. I knew I was going in as soon as they said no. Um, and this was the first time an officer handcuffed me. I'd never been handcuffed before. So he grabs my wrist and he puts my arm behind my back, and he goes, "Give me your other hand, please." And I put my hand around, and he's trying to. Now I'm kind of a wide guy. I'm not big, but like I was 240, 250 at the time, 250 pounds. I'm 5'9". That makes me more bowling ball shaped than than tall shaped. He's trying to get my hands together. They don't go together. They just don't do that. And he's like, "Give me your hand." And I'm like, I'm not fighting you. I'm not going to fight you. Go ahead. I'm trying. This isn't easy. And he goes, "All right." And he kind of jams my hands together and he snaps the cups on me and takes me around and he puts me in the back. He opens the car door and he's like, "Hop in." And I was like, now mind you, I know how they put you in the car. So I was like, I'm just going to get in the car. Like, I don't need him assisting me for this. Plus my hands are now jammed up. My shoulders are not comfortable. I'm not in pain per se, but I was not comfortable. And I didn't like the situation. But I definitely wasn't going to try and bolt at that point. I was like, "Nah, man, I'm going to just get in the car." So, and there's not much space. You ever ride in the back of a cop car? Not much space back there. It is not very luxurious. And they're not like padded seats either. It's like a hard molded plastic that goes over the back, and they actually have indents in the back for your arms. So your arms, so when you're cuffed, you can go back and your arm, there's like slots for your arms to go into. It's weird. They know they're arresting people, hence that's a cop car. So I hop in and there's no leg room. I barely fit. I'm only 5'9". I can't imagine somebody who's like way bigger than me trying to get in there. I'm like, move the seat. They don't move the seat. What a terrible Uber driver. He only goes to one space and he has a wicked attitude the whole time. He just wasn't having any jokes. I wasn't really trying to joke with him, but I wasn't really pleased with what was going on. I didn't know that at that point that he had followed me, but whatever. So he sticks me in the car. I jump in the car. I get in the car. He takes me. Now, mind you, my parents' house is less than a mile, is about a mile away. As the crow flies, it's like a football field away from the Talcott Jail. Well, it's a little farther than that, actually, but it's kitty corner. Our property, their property is not that far away. So we jump in his car, and he zips around the block about almost. Boop, and we're at the sheriff's station. And they bring me in, and this time they brought me in. They brought me in cuffed. They put me in the same area that I was in before to get, they search you. They didn't strip search me or anything like that. They just pat me down, take your shoes off, all that jazz. And this time, they cuffed my. No, wait a minute. No, they did. Yeah, no. They cuffed my wrist to there's like a bolt thing on the wall with like a big ring right there, and they handcuffed me to that. So I was just sitting there after they had searched me, and I was only there for a couple minutes. And then the guy comes out and he uncuffs me, and he goes, "Come with me." And you go into the second room where they have the station breathalyzer. It's a much bigger apparatus machine, and that's where you sit and they take statements. And that room has cameras mounted in it and recording all the time. So we go into that room, and there's a bench for me to sit on, and there's a desk in there, and there's a breathalyzer machine next to him, and he sits behind the desk, and he starts filling out this paperwork. And he's writing out this paperwork, and he goes, "Here, I'm going to need you to sign." And he starts asking me questions. What time is it? Have you had anything to drink tonight? If so, how many? I'm trying to answer. I'm trying to give him bullshit answers. I barely drank. I might have had two, that kind of stuff. I was not real good at what time it was. At first, he asked me, like, it's 2 a.m. Like on the side of the road. He asked me again when we were in the thing. I'm like, it's got to be like 3 in the morning, like, because drunk people can't tell time real well. And that's one of the things that they can write down, like, oh, this person couldn't keep track of time. I'm like, there's no clocks in here. Anyway, he's asked me all these questions. He's filling out the paperwork, and he slides a piece of paper over to me, and there's a bunch of written things on there. Now, mind you, he never asked me if I wanted to call my lawyer. Now, it was, 1:30, almost 2 o'clock in the morning at the time. But he never asked me if I wanted a lawyer or to make a phone call. He just said, "Here, sign this." And he slid a piece of paper over to me. And I was, in my head, I'm like, I'm a lawyer. I'm going to take care of this. This isn't my first rodeo. So I grabbed a piece of paper, and he looking at me funny, like he wants me just to sign it. And I'm like, wait, I gotta read this. And he put my name at the top, and this, that, and the other. And I saw a paragraph, and I don't recall what it says, but it said something like, I agree to submit to a search and the evidence that this officer can produce. And I literally crossed that out, and I signed it. And then I handed it back to him, and he looked at me real funny. And then he's like, "All right, sit down," because I had to stand up off the bench to do that at his little desk. And then he's like, "All right, sit down." And as I turn around and sit down, I noticed the camera. And a buddy of mine was a Tioga County employee for the sheriff's department. I'm not going to say who it was or what his position was. And I noticed the camera, and I know that he knows everybody in there. He knows all. He's one of them. And I look right at the camera. I'm gonna call him Bob Wiggins. That's a made up name. That is an alias. That is not anybody I know. I look directly into the camera in the corner of the room and I go, "Fuck you, Bob Wiggins. Fuck you." Ah! Double bird. And then I sit down and the cop looks like, "What?" And I go, "What happened to my car?" And he goes, "We towed that." And I go, "You fucking towed it? Why? It was in a private parking lot. It wasn't on the road. The last time I got pulled over, the cops left it in a private parking lot. It didn't need to get towed. You didn't have to do that. I'm going to sue you guys to get my money back for that. It was not necessary to tow that vehicle. You had to wait for the owner of that parking lot to tell you to get rid of that vehicle. You had no right to tow that." So I lean into this kid. And Dylan is younger than me by a few years. But I was pissed. I was like, "What the fuck? You towed my car, bitch." Those words didn't come out, but I was definitely unhappy with him. That's what turned it. The first time I got arrested, I just sat quietly and twiddled my thumbs. This time I was like, "Fuck that. What the fuck are you doing? You can't fucking tow my car. That's private property. I'm not on the street. I wasn't in the way." I'm leaning into this guy. At the time, Dylan's sitting at the desk doing his little sign his thing. I'm standing. I didn't sit down yet. There's another sheriff standing in the corner of the room watching. And I lay into Dylan about towing my car. And I look at the other cop, and the other cop's looking at Dylan like, "Oh, maybe you shouldn't have towed his car, man." Because if you're on the road, if you're on public property, they tow your car. I was in a private parking lot, in a restaurant's parking lot. That's not public property. He does not have the authority to tow me out of there. The owner of that parking lot, the owner of that restaurant owns a parking lot. He has the authority to say, "Hey, you're parked illegally. I want you off my property." Cop doesn't get to tow my car at that point. He could have left it right where it sat in the parking spot and just let it be. He didn't have to do that. So anyway, I was real pissed about that. So they take me back out, and he's like, "We got to finish the processing." So that's when they did the fingerprint thing, and they did the pictures. Yeah, I take my hat off, and I'm sure my hair looked something like that. I mean, my hair's a mess. I've been wearing my hat all day. I had to go. I just got home from work, and I just changed real quick to make this video, and I've been wearing a hat all day. But I'm sure my hair looked almost identical. So they take pictures, they do my fingerprints again. I'm like, "You guys already did this. Like, you already got one. Like, this is my second time around." They're like, "Oh." They still did it. They do it anyway. They do it every time. You get free set every time. So I was pretty upset about that whole shebang. And then they asked me, I'm sitting there on that same bench where they had shackled me before. They didn't cuff me again. I just sat there. And this time I was kind of over my tantrum. And I was like, I'm just going to chill out. Like, I was kind of tired at that point. And guy goes, "Hey, man, you gotta make a phone call, go and get a ride." And I said, "Call Bob Wiggins." The guy I was cursing at on the camera. I was like, "Call him." Because I knew that, they were not going to call him. He outranked them. And I was like, call Bob Wiggins. Do it. Again, Bob Wiggins is a fake name. That's not a real person. Well, I'm sure there is a Bob Wiggins that exists. But in this story, that is an alias. That is not who I'm talking about. "Call Bob Wiggins. Get his ass out of bed. Get him down here. He's my friend. I'll talk to him." And they're like, "Ooh, we're not going to do that." So they're like, "Well, we'll give you a ride home." They're not supposed to do that either. And my parents' house was like a mile away. I could have just walked. I was probably going to walk. That was my end game. Was I was going to try and piss them off and then just walk out of there. They could have just stuffed me in the drunk tank too. They didn't. Oh, they had also, by the way, when you get to the station, they asked you to do a second breathalyzer, so they can retest, because sometimes their little handheld ones aren't super accurate. And they asked you to do the one at the station, which is far more accurate. And of course, I was like, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm not giving you any proof of numbers while I'm here of my level of intoxication. You have to guess." You don't have to take their tests. You don't have to do a field sobriety test. You don't have to blow in their breathalyzer. You're not their circus monkey. You don't have to do any of that. However, that does give them suspicion, probable cause, and it is also a law that if you're under suspicion of driving while drunk and you refuse a breathalyzer, that's automatic arrest at that point. So don't think that you can just get out of that by saying no. That's not a thing. But you are allowed legally to refuse their tests. You will have to go to court, get yourself a good lawyer, go to court and talk about that with the judge. And the judge is 99.9% of the time going to side with the cops. So the cops are trying to build a case, and they're building evidence against you, why they pulled you over and why it was within their rights and means to get me off the road. Why did he do it? The whole nine. Come to find out, in his report that he handed to the DA, that the DA talked to the judge about, the reason he pulled me over is that I was swerving and I bumped the double yellow line. He didn't say that. He never mentioned my taillights flashing in the report that he wrote. And then he gave me tickets for changing lane unsafely because I didn't signal when I pulled over. So he gave me a ticket for pulling over. What an asshole. That was within his rights. He was building a case, and he gave me those traffic violation, that traffic violation. I think it was changing lane unsafely and failure to use an indicator and leaving lane unsafely. They got those 2 tickets. Thanks for piling on. Of course, I like I said, he was being professional. He was. He didn't abuse me or hurt me. I can't say that was a bad thing. It's not a fun experience by any means, but as far as the rest goes, that was pretty smooth. I wasn't going to fight him. I wasn't going to try and run away. The crazy thing was when I got out of the car the first time, I glanced down the road and I could see my mailbox. I was like 300-400 yards from my house. I could see my mailbox from where I was. I was like, oh, I was almost home. I'm 5 miles. I was 5 miles. I was 4 3/4 miles, to home. And that's when he pulled me over. Fucking figures. It's always within the last mile of your destination to get you. So that happened, man. That's how it went. I went to the bar. I drank too much. I had to decide to get myself home because I had to go to work the next day. So I needed my car. I needed to get all my shit squared away. Small town. There was no taxi. There was no Uber. None of my buddies that were there, they all lived in town, so they all walk. I was the only one that really drove. I think, yeah, I was the only one that drove. And I was the only one that lived outside of town. So, I mean, could I have walked 5 miles? Probably, but it was one of those cold, it was January in upstate New York. I ain't walking. It's cold as shit. Bad idea. Bad choice. This is 6 years after my first one. I got complacent and, I loaded myself up on purpose to get home intoxicated. And then I was going to sit home with my drunk buzz and finish my 3 beers and watch YouTube videos and call it a night. But Officer Dillon had a different idea. And it's the way the cookie crumbles. So I'll continue this in part 2. I'll tell you the aftermath and everything that happened. But arrested, cuffed, stuffed, processed, little belligerent with them. But they still gave me a ride home. I got out. They gave me all my paperwork. I jump in one of the different officer, jump in the back of his car. He drives me back around the block. My car's gone. They'd towed it. That's why I freaked out. And he dropped me off at home, and I said, "Have a good night, sir." And I went inside, and I think I had more beers at home anyway. Like, I didn't need to buy 3 at the bar. I could have just come home without them. I didn't need that extra shit, but I didn't need to go out drinking on a Tuesday night either. But I did, and I got caught, and it's my fault. You can't pick and choose what laws you want to follow. That's what happens. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell if you would, please. Thank you. Go back through. Check out my other videos. I'll try and keep putting content up as much as possible. This is a new thing. I enjoy telling these stories. I enjoy getting this off my chest. I'm not trying to throw Towson County Sheriffs under the bus. I'm not trying to throw probation under the bus. They're good people doing good work, and they're just doing their job. And they're just guys and girls, men and women, professionals, taking care of business, keeping the community safe. And I gotta, tip of the hat to them. You know, thank you for your service for sure, because I was illegally on the road. There's no reason to be that intoxicated and operating a motor vehicle, and that was my fault. And I am sorry for that discretion. I have learned from my mistakes, my behaviors, and I try not to do that anymore. Well, not even try not to do that. I don't drink anymore. So that pretty much solves that problem. So part 2 is coming. Part 2 will be the aftermath of the lawyer fees, all the process I've went through, probation, and how that's going. And I'm currently about finished up with probation at this point. So fingers crossed, everything goes smoothly, and I'll be 100% unsupervised shortly. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Please, again, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'll catch you for part 2 another time. Peace.